Had quite a few requests on how to do sublimation onto a hat like this. And I've got a blank one here, and I've got a little thinking alien we're going to put on the front of it. Show you how I'm going to do this coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the loft above the shop. What I'm going to be showing today is how to sublimate onto a sublimation blank cap. And I am using some rather cheap ones here just for this demonstration because I don't normally do hats, but I've had a lot of requests. You know, maybe you have a 3-in-1 or a 5-in-1 or an 8-in-1 or a 100-in-1 or whatever heat press that came with the hat press attachment on it. And you've kind of got it figured out how to get it set up, but you're not real sure how to make the hat work on it. And it's actually on these multiple use heat presses, it is a little bit fiddly. If you're going to be doing a lot of hats, get an actual hat press. And I'm going to show you why here in a minute when we go over to the other side of the loft and I go over to the press. I'm going to be using a Tussie swing away press with the hat press attachment on it. And you'll see that once you get the pressure set, it doesn't swing away while you've got the hat on it. And the Vevor 5-in-1 is the same way. I did a video on that a while back. I didn't actually press a hat, but it's something you need to keep in mind. You're going to have to get this prepped a certain way. Slide it in from the front, as you'll see. Do the press, then slide it back out. And there's a few little tricks to this. It's same as if you're going to do HTV onto just a regular hat. You don't need a sublimation blank for that, of course, but getting it on the press correctly and getting it pressed, and maybe you think you're going to have the heat going where it is, but it's not really. You're going to have to look at a few things and do a little bit of testing first. So take you over to the other side of the room here and I'll get set up. We'll show you how this works. Okay, here, so I have my press set up here. I don't have it on right now. This is the attachment that holds the base of the hat and it fits into a channel. Other brands are similar, and this just slides in like this. Well, then you see the problem is when you go to slide to rotate this for having it set for the proper pressure, it actually hits your project. Even if you try to lift up and do this, yeah, it'll clear right there, but as you'll see here in a minute, once you get your hat on there, that doesn't work so well. So you want to take your blank, and I always undo the strap in the back here. Place it over the base of the press. Get it sort of centered like that. So this is a little bit fiddly. We'll get this slid back on here. So this is what you're going to need to do first, is get the hat in place with your press off. Don't turn it on yet. Get everything kind of centered there. And you're going to have to figure out exactly how far that heat element goes around. And I'll show you why, because I found out on one of them I was doing the hard way. I had measured my distance of the heating element from one side to the other and made a graphic that I could use. And I measured also this direction. However, it doesn't really clamp down around all the way because I ended up with a botched project here. This was supposed to say thinking cap. I lost my T, got there, and I lost the P over here, and I lost the top of my little thinking guy. So yeah, that's a scrap. So keep that in mind. Even though you do a measurement, it doesn't necessarily heat all the way out to the edge. The element inside is what you're going to have to look at carefully. Even though you can measure a long distance on the hat, it's not necessarily going to cover all of that. So once you get this in there, you need to get your pressure set. And you want a medium pressure like this. You don't want something really, really hard. So once you have your pressure set, now you can get your graphic ready. And like I said, this is a little fiddly if you don't have an actual hat press. So here's my little graphic, and I'm going to get him put on in the center here. Yeah, get some heat tape going here. And I also found that the heat tape doesn't stick real well to the material on this particular cap. So I have to use quite a bit of it. Make sure you follow the curvature of the cap and that your graphic is straight on there. It's very easy to get it crooked. You can see there, it just pops off. It's very hard to get this to stay. So you may have to use a lot of heat tape. Depending on how your hat is made. This particular one, your brand, I've been having a dickens of a time with. I'm going to add one more just for safety measures here. Okay, now I'm going to get the heat press turned on here. Okay, if you don't plug in your heat press, when you turn it on, it won't do anything. So you have to plug it in. So what I'm going to be doing here is 385 degrees for 60 seconds. So now we need to get our hat back on the base down here. You get it back in position. You want to make sure you get your hat on there straight. I get it slid into position. Once you have everything in position, you can clamp it down. Again, you need to make sure that everything is straight and stays straight, and it can be a little fiddly, but it does work. At the end of the time, let's pop that out of there. Pull your paper off, and I have here what they call ghosting, because my paper had shifted as I was pulling this out and it ghosted up here. So it's kind of a double dimension thing. I'm going to grab another one here. I'm going to show you another method on doing this, but it's still a little fiddly. Okay, in this method, I've set my pressure to be just like we did on the last one. But before I set all this up, I'm going to raise my heat press up quite a bit. And I'm counting the turns. So now, when this is in place, and you have your project there, you could do a swing away. You would swing it back in, then let that number of turns back down, and then do the press. So I have this set up here, just as we did before, same graphic. It's taped on here. Now the bottom plating is in place. So I can get everything set here. Then you just let it back down and do your press. And now once I release this, I'll raise the column back up again. So I can very easily pull this out without it getting moved. Now I've got my thinking alien without any ghosting. So there's how to do hats on one of these multi-use heat presses. And there again, I say if you're going to do hats, get an actual hat press and not one of the multi-all-in-ones. As you saw there, it's somewhat fiddly. The other 5-in-1 that I did demos with here a while back work just exactly the same. You cannot actually swing that top away without it hitting that bottom plate. So you either have to slide it in the front, in the first method I did, which gives you the chance of ghosting your image, which I did as I showed, because I don't edit out my boo-boos. I make a mistake, you get to see those too. The other method, of course, was getting your pressure set, raising the column up X number of turns. In my case, it was 15 or so. Get your project set, everything set in place, lower it back down, about 15 turns as I did. Do your press, time's up, release it, crank it back up again, take your project off because the top will swing away without hitting your image. Or you could just slide it out from the front. In fact, I slid out the front because I didn't want to take any chances of when that moved that it would hit the image here and make a ghost again. So that's why I pulled that one out from the front. But you could do it either way. So yes, it's a little fiddly, complicated. If you're just getting started in it, buy the cheapest sublimation blank hats you can find, or start out with some very, very inexpensive caps and use HTV to get your hat press down. You know, just use some little scraps of HTV and put a couple designs on a few until you get the hang of it. Because if you start getting the higher quality caps and you screw them up, you're going to be not happy with yourself. So that's what there is to it. Got anything out of this? Appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Roger in the loft above the shop. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Because I got my thinking alien, I can think now.